Welcome to part two of Principles of Design lecture. This is art appreciation. Emphasis in this work of art we have right here, Prometheus Bound. The emphasis, the focal point, is the point in which the large bird pierces Prometheus's side and begins to eat his liver. I know it's kind of tough to take. But this is the punishment Prometheus must go through, handed down by the gods for his sin of stealing fire from heaven and giving it to mankind. So, how do you create emphasis? Relative size. The figures are largest. They are the most important elements. Lines of force. Definitely what we have going on here with the violent diagonals being crossed over between the body of Prometheus and the large bird. Focal point, that's the lines where the force crosses. And contrast, a contrast of light and dark areas draws attention to the main subject. Now, the idea of emphasis goes across to all different genres of art, including film, movies, music, theater, all of these. In a movie, there's often the French say denouement, the most important moment that's taking place, and many times in movies it is about 3/4 or 2/3 of the way through a movie, where there is a moment that's very important. It's fairly obvious in movies by director M. Night Shyamalan. Uh, he often does this kind of twist to the plot that takes place at this moment. If we think about music, there's that point in a song that's, once again, 3/4, 2/3 of the way through a song, where if it's rock music, it might be a guitar solo. If it is electronic music or rap music, it might be a breakdown of the beat, maybe with some scratching or something like that, that shows us that point. But emphasis, important. So we find that many different types of art. Another principle of design we'll take a look at is unity and variety. So what we have here in this sculpture right here, which is actually shows unity very well. There is a contrast of lighting, textures, and sizes. It also has visual unity through the repetition of circular lines and shapes. Some works show more obvious use of repetition. So the artist will choose whether to have more unity or more variety in a work of art. Unity makes something seem as if it is a whole. It is something that repeats. And so, like for a song, it may be the beat or the chorus that repeats. So unity is good, but unity also, if used too much, can create boredom. So there are other things that add variety to that. So if we think of the chorus as giving unity to a song, perhaps there are other lines in the song that would give it variety, or multiple instruments might give it variety, where the beat would give it unity. So most of the time, it is a balancing act in the work of art. A subtle use of repetition can be seen in architecture, and that's what we see right here. So the The arches right here repeat this circular form that is also in the bays at the top of the ceiling. You can see these circular forms, so that would give it unity. Harmony. Harmony can create unity in a composition. Here we have a work by Georgia O'Keeffe, and we have the repeating of the soft organic shapes. Colors can create harmony by mixing white with each of the colors here. The pastel colors harmonize the work of art. The bright yellow-orange complements the soft tints and adds a certain focal point to the work of art. Proportion and scale compares the parts of one thing to each other. Scale is the relation between something and a constant, like a human scale. Proportion relates one thing to another part within the work of art. I often think of proportion as in cooking. So if you have a recipe and the certain ingredients make, say, 1 dozen cookies, if you wanted to create and bake 2 dozen cookies, it would be the proportion. You would double the proportion of the ingredients in the recipe for 1 dozen to make 2 dozen. Scale is, like I mentioned, the size of something compared to a constant or normal size. So the artists from the time of ancient Egypt and Greece down to the Renaissance have pursued the quest for ideal proportions, often using mathematics as a determining factor. This work right here from the Renaissance is from the sketchbooks of Leonardo da Vinci. This is his famous Vitruvian Man, in which he shows a geometric form of the circle and how that relates to the human size. Scale. Sometimes scale is distorted to express the status of the individual portrayed. So here in this top work, we have the pharaoh, and he towers over mere mortals depicted here. So there is a hierarchy going on, with the largest figures being the most important. Directly below that, we have an ancient sculpture of Buddha. Often buildings and sculpture with a religious function impress us with their large scale. The intention may also be to impress the god being worshipped. Scale here, the scale of a work in relation to the viewer, can be expressive. And if you notice that the top work right here is a picture of sculpture in a gallery, and you can see the size of the viewers in the gallery underneath the table. So the artist has made the furniture quite large. Now that relates to the content of the work, where we can imagine ourselves as children being underneath a table, and the table being much larger than us. And even as adults, we're given that feeling by the furniture being done extra large. We also have a famous work right here, and this work is by Siqueiros, Echo of a Scream from 1937. We have a body of a child, and the child is amongst all of this debris of destruction, quite apocalyptic scene. But the large head of the baby that is repeated here is screaming, and it is the size of this head that has us imagining that this scream is very powerful and overtakes everything else that we're seeing within the work of art. Scale and depth. Scale can be expressive to create illusion of depth by changing the relative size of objects. The space seems to go on forever behind the abandoned child, intensifying the feelings of hopelessness. The enormous duplicate of the baby's head amplifies the power of the scream. while the body seems weak and helpless. And we will stop right here with our part 2 of the principles of design.